Well, I'm back. Now let's talk about, I guess, our first week of dating, online e dating. At this point, we've already gone through a lot of our flirting, and it's 100% guaranteed. We like each other. We really vibe with each other on many different fronts. Um, and I was her moderator basically for her TikToks, for her tarot TikTok live streams, and we just we just hit it off hard. And I really like her TikTok posts. She posts very sexy videos of herself that I really loved. Really, really did. And I really loved her armpits. Like, after like a few days of talking to me, she posted this video for the very first time. Maybe it was in her drafts or something, but she posted like a belly dancing video. Kinda. She's just vibing to some music. And she was wearing a tube top, and she was showing off her belly and piercing, and she had hairy armpits that really triggered me in a good way. She was so hot. I loved it. And I sent her this meme of like the Avatar movie where they put their hair strands together. I'm like, this is me and your armpits. And yeah, I would always talk about her armpits, man. I love them. And then I would say like, me and your armpits are like this. And she'd laugh. And then she also asked me to do some homework with her for the first time. She's like, I wanted to pay you for help with a task, but only you didn't hate it. And I said, why would I hate it? And she says, because I have anxiety around writing, timed writing. And then I talked to her about it. And then she said, I will pay you like a professional tutor. And I said, okay, I'll be awake just for you. And she said, actually. And then she's like, are you good at writing? And I'm like, I haven't been in college in a decade, but I can still write and analyze. And then I shared my email with her. And I woke up at 5 a.m. for her. And I had to make sure she gets 100 or whatever. And we talked about how it wasn't actually timed writing. It was like multiple tests, like a bunch of tests. And we spent the next day, November 4th, doing all these these multiple choice answers and shit. And I said, I said, we talked about all the logistics, and she's like, good night, I want to cuddle. And I said, all right, but I want extra armpit. And she laughed, and she's like, do you actually have a thing for armpits? Be real. Are you making fun of me? And I said, I'm for real. I think yours are so cute. Now go to sleep. And she made puppy dog eye emojis and said, I want cuddle. Okay, fine. Night. And then we woke up the next morning and we spent 3 hours doing her test. Like, I was copying from Copilot and she was copying from ChatGPT, and we were comparing answers, trying to get the most correct one, because honestly, these AI, a lot of times they hallucinate. It's crazy. And we just comparing answers over and over for 3 hours until we finished. And she's like, and then I was like, bitch, you better be paying me with raw pussy. That shit was not easy. And then she's like, damn, I just finished cleansing my soul. That made me chuckle. But for real, don't speak to me like that. She's like, drop your preferred method of payment. Not PIV. I don't know what that is. And she's like, thank you so much. Seriously, I appreciate you so much. You okay? And I said, nothing but the finest liquids flowing from your valley's lips will quench my thirst. And I said, and she's like, bro. And then she has a hand emoji and some money. And she's like, there you go, drop your PayPal. And I said, maybe after I see your grades. She's like, why? And I said, despite my clear horniness and role playing, I do care about you and want you to succeed. And I went to take a nap, and we started. We're basically talking every day now, and we were getting comfortable. And she started her tarot reading live stream after the test, and I was like, and I got this feeling of wanting to pimp her out. And I said, I think it's time I start pimping you out. Download OBS, make a Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and Restream account. And she's like, haha, what? I don't know what that means. Explain. And I said, multi-stream, baby. And she said, do you want to show me later? I'm like, yes. And then she hit 1,000 followers that day. And I said, I saw, baby. All the more reason to pimp you out. And I just modded for her. And I linked her some portable monitors for her to use for multi-streaming. And then we talked all night, getting more comfortable with each other. There's something really interesting. She said, for the first time she met me, she's like, you have a lot of mermaids in your house. I'm like, what the fuck? How did you know that? Because I used to get raped by mermaids all the time in my house. Yeah. They call it the Marine Kingdom. And I was like married to freaking mermaids that had sex with me all the time. It's crazy. Then that night, her phone died as we slept together. And she's like, did my phone die? I'm like, yeah, I think so. You disconnected first. Sorry. And she said, this was a weird day on November 6th. She said she had emotional dreams. She just woke up and started sobbing. And I was like, why? And she's like, I don't know. Like, spiritual reality is profound. And I was like, what did you see guys? And she's like, what's going on? I saw a weird message about... Okay. So, that first week, we started talking with each other. I felt love, energy like no other. A connection like no other. we it was like our souls were transferring energy between each other, and I felt profound love like no other. This was like beyond love. This was something spiritual and magical. But that day, when she woke up, I felt it disappear. It was so intense, that love energy. How did I forget it? It was amazing. And we were like, this was like a different type of power beyond anything I've ever experienced in my life. This was the most profound love ever. I don't know if I could ever find that energy again. But anyways, she this this was around the time of the Taurus new moon. Hold up, let me check. When was the Taurus new moon? Taurus new moon 2025. Oh. I guess it wasn't it. But anyways, some kind of new moon during that time. And she's like, what's going on? I saw a weird message about Armand low key. I just woke up. I'm still crying. And I feel weak. I'm gonna order weights right now. And something changed within her. She like that love energy within her disappeared somewhere. And she called me, and she was getting triggered by my antics. I think the night before I was talking about, I made a comment on her TikTok live stream about how I'm gonna run away to more concubines and get more concubines or whatever and abuse her. So she said, if you love me, then you wouldn't be a hoe. That's rude and mean. Stop. I was like, because at this point, I know I liked her. I really liked her. And I feel love with her. But I didn't see us as a relationship yet. I just saw us as two people. That's it. Two people with connection. And I replied with, huh? Do you want me to be with you for real? And she's like I want you to be more sensitive to my emotions. I don't like it. I don't know. It drains me. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, baby. I thought you loved joking with me. She did. And when you get sensitive, I try to be gentle. That's the start of me being on my synth mode, I guess. And she had a profound reading that night, I think. We called each other. Let's see. We were watching a video together. She wanted to start a link tree and some businesses. And then she's like, what are you up to? I'm bored. What are you actually doing right now? And I said, I'm sleeping. And it's 3 p.m. I was still in my NEET stage. And she's like, your eyes are actually closed? Don't lie. And I said, I'm thinking about you. And she's like, and how would you see this text? There's no way. And I said, it's closed. I was just looking at you. On live? And I said, yeah. Your eyes are closed? And I said, yeah, I'm Asian. Babe. And then she was streaming this entire time. And I like to scroll a lot. I like to multitask a lot. And then I said, Uh, she said, "What? Where the fuck are you? Did you leave the motherfucking live? Why did you leave? Were you bored? What the fuck, lol? Faye's not here either. I was getting annoying and hungry." And then I said, "No, I just had errands." And she's like, "Errands where?" And I said, "At my second concubine's house." And she's like, "Shut the fuck up, Lumfow." And I said, "Show me something good, baby. Maybe I'll stay." And she's like, "What do you mean, bitch? What do you mean?" And she's like, "I'ma maybe do something else." And I said, "Babe, after this, just quit the live stream. Or else I'm gonna just use and abuse you, then move on to my next concubine when I get bored." And she's like, "Sorry, what did you just say to me?" And this definitely a trigger. I I triggered in her. And then she called me for a minute, and I was like, "Baby, no, let's study." She was probably mad at me or something. And then she started another call that lasted 13 minutes, and she was probably asking about Armand. Why did Armand block us? Because Armand was doing Reiki for both of us at this time. Uh, Starting a week ago, like I was getting like some like maybe had 2 sessions with him, and there was these weird white girls who didn't like it for some reason, and they were spreading like info on us, like not info, like gossip. They don't even know us. Like what the fuck? Because my name on TikTok is Concubine Collector, and they're like feminists or some shit, and they're like saying I'm like SRA or whatever. They're accusing us, me and Gabby, of being SRA cult members. I'm like, what the fuck? Neither of us are that. We were like, we both acted childish or whatever. Like, they didn't. I guess it's not the place for it because a lot of those people were healing. They get triggered by it, and we did a reading on it. It turns out like those two bitches were like unhealed bitches, and they just want to control him for some their own feelings or whatever. So weird. Anyways, hope he does well. And yeah, he blocked the both of us. Then yeah, so we're on our comfortable phase. We're testing our boundaries with each other, and she's showing off me all her books, her nice books that I want to read too. Like it's awesome. Like, we really have like similar interests for real. And then I think she did a reading. I don't know. She's still sending me her cats. And then this is the awesome part. I told her to sign up for SRT course with me, which is from a spiritual medium named Laura Starr, Astro Laura Starr, and she was teaching us everything. We joined this Zoom call for like 160 or whatever, and we were just learning everything about spiritual warfare, like the deepest, darkest, best stuff. Like it's like there's no other information that is higher level than this when it comes to spiritual warfare. This is like it deals with everything: aliens, demons. And Gabby was telling me some crazy things too during that entire course. Like like it's like she was like, as we were having like watching that class, we were also like knowledge checking each other and revealing stuff about each other, like because all that stuff was relevant to us. Like our dreams, our our experiences, it was all connecting. Like she, like how Gabby knew I had mermaids, and then she also said I had fairies. How'd she know that? And let's see. They were talking about spirit guides, and Gabby says hers were hers were angels, animals, and her glorious grandma, she thinks. Which we'll talk about later. Her grandma. And let's see. Then in the class they were talking about how to connect to your soul guides. It's very important to initiate and develop a deeper connection and relationship with your soul guides. And Gabby told me, I see. I told you I don't have those weird experiences. This is new for me. This is so cool. Calling in my loving highest light spirit guides. I know they are going to be gorgeous angels. I love you so much, beautiful angels. And she said, you need to be aware of your intentions at all times, baby Sana. When lighting, breathing, looking, and I said, I love you, baby. And she said, my angels and feline dragons. I'm curious about ascended masters. And then gatekeeper is a cool protection. I guess I said I had a gatekeeper. She says she's gonna raise her vibration. She's skinny as fuck. And I said, stop taking meds, baby. And she says, why? I don't get it. Every morning I take the lowest dose of Wellbutrin and Cymbalta, medications for our ADHD. And I said, babe, are you still watching? And she says, I think I'm a succubi. Why are you asking? I'm listening to music and her and brushing my teeth. And she said, I had a phase where I was obsessed with reptiles. Like, obsessed. Earlier this year, she spent like 6 hours watching videos of crocodiles. And she said, she's curious about the grays, experiments, devices, screens. And she wonders if the grays targeted her mom. She was supposed to die in December and January, and that's why Gabby was in a low vibrational state. She was addicted, and it was a really sad time, and that's in the past now. Interesting. And I said, wow, maybe that's what happened to my grandma too. After she came back from the hospital after surgery, she was never the same. I was always angry at her for no reason, but I had parasites too. It was like she was a different person. So aliens and greys, they like to stay at hospitals and animal hospitals and do stuff to the patients, especially when they're getting surgery and having open wounds. Now, now we were talking about dark force entities and how they're celebrities, politicians, and war zones, and they want to control high-ranking A-list people. They have they are body snatchers and compromise all these powerful and formidable beings. And but Laura Star can't clear these demons out, or war zones, or celebrities. So you have to choose your battles wisely. And Gabby said her sister experiences all the time overwhelming negative emotions, specifically heart palpitations, anxiety attacks, and chest pains all the time. And yeah, Gabby and her sister like do fight a lot. They definitely do fight a lot. Sorry, I'm getting screenshots as I read over them. And I had heart palpitations too. Last year, I actually fainted from WPW syndrome. But that was probably because I had an awakening. And then Gabby sent me an image of her legs. And it made me think of mermaids. I was like, mermaids. And heart emoji, heart eye emoji. Mermaid leg. And Laura also talked about how there's like tracking devices and recording devices that entities put in our homes. And Gabby talked about how when she was with her CIA ex-boyfriend, she would have dreams of this woman who would be putting those devices into her rooms all the time. And when I heard this, I went into serious warfare mode, and I started fighting for Gabby in her dreams, hardcore, to choke that bitch out. And after that, Gabby told me like she'd never seen that female in her dreams again, because that female also like wanted to fuck Gabby for some reason. And then yeah, so I said I can't wait to get to Laura Star's level. And Gabby's like, you want to zap entities professionally? Sounds like Pokemon. Oh my god, period, that sounded like you. I was like, what? She asked, what skills do we need to build to be a great medium? And she says, that sounds like your curiosity. She's giving a list of book recommendations. I was like, shit, I didn't write them all down. And she's like, how do you specifically call in a benevolent guide to remove implants, grays, AI tech spyware? And she's like, I wonder if we fucked in the astral realm before we knew. That's why you low-key recognized me instantly. Maybe we did, honestly. Because, Gabby, holy shit, this is so crazy. I need to screenshot this. I need to screenshot this. That's so crazy that she said that. Because maybe I was having sex with Gabby all this time while she was a succubus. That's so crazy. Maybe I was having sex with Gabby this entire time. And she said, That's why you low-key recognize me instantly. Hello, I can't. I think I was a succubus. And I was like, no wonder I'm attracted to you. Those are the only things I've ever had sex with. And she's like, I think you're really hot, which is rare, so I think so too. But that's a lie. She thinks a lot of guys are hot. And then she laughed at something. She's like, no, I'm screaming. She said, when you remove the spirit, you become an NPC. I'm dying. I'm dying. You became an NPC. And that's funny as shit. And then Gabby said, a billionaire in my neighborhood just committed suicide. 30-year-old blonde girl. The Hildebrandt. She wrote a 200-page manifesto saying her ex-boyfriend put spyware in her body and implants to torture her, and she wants to seek justice on him, and the family blamed her mental decline on her ADD medication, Adderall and Vyvanse. Say Vyvanse? Vyvanse. Huh. And 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 then Gabby said something really weird. I think you were a fratty white boy named Jake in your past life, and you were into drinking and ran over a family while you were drinking. Like, how would she know this unless she read my like Akashic records or something? Like, is Gabby really that awesome? That's crazy. And then we finished the class, and we're learning about how to get all these crystals at the very end. And they were talking about Akashic records for bloodlines. But at this point, Gabby was still a little bit manic. She's still a little bit triggered from before. And then, let me see, is that the same day? I fell asleep for an hour, and I said, I had a dream. You almost finished playing Digimon, and I think you'll be my best concubine. And she's like, I knew you dreamt of me. But then she was like, best concubine? How about you just like one person at a time and dump them once you are interested in someone new? I prefer that over you lusting over many girls at once. And I said, what if you're the only girl I'm lusting over right now? And she said, then you're not crossing my boundaries. If there's anybody else, you have to tell me or just block me. If you don't, you're crossing my boundaries. And then I said, okay, I'll ask your approval first. This is my symbol. And then she's like, approval for what? I'm like, picking more concubines. And she's like, are you already bored or something? I said, no way. And she's like, I'm kind of annoyed at you. And I said, I can feel it. I'm like emotionally attached to you. And she's like, it's like you're trying to jab at my energy, whether you meant to or not. It's giving problematic. You're starting to become problematic for me. And I said, what are we? I don't. Let me say this. This is like maybe first, maybe. She's like we don't have to label something at all. I don't want that. But I want energetic respect, and what I'm feeling isn't respectful. Jabbing at my energy. I said, okay, I'll do better. And she says, everyone says don't trust Scorpios. They're all liars and cheaters. So, and then she said, all my animals just gathered around me. That's unusual. As if they're trying to protect me from your energy, Jab, and warn me. But honestly, I was quite level-headed as always. But her animals did show up. And usually whenever animals show up around me, it's a spiritual awakening. Like all of her animals showed up, which is crazy. But it's cool. And I said, babe, are you angry at me? She said, yes, very. I can feel it. And she said, I know you can, but you don't care. I said, so baby, do you want me to never joke with you about this if we are to be together? And she said, but it's not a joke. I said, I mean, I say it to every girl who messaged me, but you're like the only one who laughed with me about it. But I think you really are the one, to be honest. And she said, you messaged me first, not the other way around. I don't have expectations, but what do I have is respect. What I need is mutual respect, period. And I said, you're right. I should not joke about it with you anymore and give up on that dream. You should be the only one in my life. And then she said, and she pulled some cards. Let's see. I'm not sure what cards that is. But there's death. There's... Gosh, I don't know these cards. She said, it's not a normal spread, bro. Oh, I guess I'll talk about this fight next time. It's kind of late. It's kind of late right now, so I'll talk about this stuff next time. But yeah, we're starting the fight right now. Around November 7th, 2025. Our first fight after the class. This is around 2 o'clock p.m. And I triggered something in her before, so this was after. She's very intuitive. She was very, very intuitive for sure. Now, we'll continue next time. It's pretty dark. See ya.